has done an absolutely stellar
I
job
know. He is
of
fabulous.
responding.
Yep.
Amazing.
Yep.
The man is phenomenal.
Yes.
The man is phenomenal. See the jewels and his crown and heaven.
We try to make him blush whenever we can. That's
Thank you. Thank you.
There you go.
there you go. Got
Back
this
in
sorted.
service, yes.
That way he won't levitate.
Does that have any swatches on it, Shags?
Well, I don't know. Watch
No, it doesn't look like it.
Festival, no.
Claire has never seen a swatch, so she didn't know what a swatch was. And before we start again, Claire, why don't you talk about what's coming up for 6 Feet Apart?
Oh, okay, I can. We've got our 2nd anniversary show. And Brandon is going to be on it. So come and hear Brandon tell a story. We love Brandon. So he was on our show really early on in the beginning. We did a build-up special and builded it for nothing. Bless him. Brandon did it for nothing. We love them a lot. And so Brandon's been on our show a few times. So he's going to be one of the people on our anniversary show, along with Kim Whitecamp, Donnie Washington,
Oh, wow.
and Alton Chung. So it's going to be fabulous. We're going to have fun stuff. Corey's going to do something fun for us. And we'll have giveaways, I expect. We'll do something. So look out for that. And then we've got open mic slams if you want to come and tell a story. We've just changed the way we're doing it. We're only selling 10 teller tickets. So it's a bit, you don't have to think, oh, is my name going to get pulled out the hat? Because it definitely will. If you get a ticket to tell, you definitely get to tell. And it was really fun. It was so much nicer doing it that way rather than be all anxious. And then you can tell people I'm actually going to tell a story if people want to come and listen. So that was fun.
Good.
So we got all things like that. And of course, something little like the Bay Area Storytelling Festival, we're trying to organize at the same time. So lots of stuff. And we've got information about the Bay Area on our website. And if you want to see anything, if you want to pitch a story, we're just going to come up with a little thing like pitch us a story. So anybody is in a swap and you think, oh, that's a good idea for a story, pitch it to us. And in about 3 or 4 days, we'll have something up on our website to do that. And we'll have a special show with pitch stories, maybe. Who knows? We're trying to do more fun stuff. So go to our website, find out all about it.
And what is your website? You're going to put it in the chat.
That would be helpful, wouldn't it?
Put it in the chat.
sfapshows.com. I'll put it in the chat.
Excellent, excellent.
But thank you, Sarah.
Well, thank you. Okay. So my goodness, it's really time. So I'm going to turn this over to Marilyn McPhee, who will introduce our star, and we'll go from there. Marilyn.
All right. It is absolutely my pleasure to introduce Joy Swift, who is this year's Regional Gem honoree. As many of you know, she has been a previous honoree from National Storytelling Network for Pacific Region Service and Leadership. But more than that is that she is honored by her fellow storytellers and her many, many enthusiastic story listeners. As the name Gem implies, she sparkles, she shines, and she is really valuable. She's held together a storytelling group for 30 years and has sponsored 31, co-sponsored 31 celebrations. She's a mother and a grandmother and a mentor to many, many novice and experienced storytellers. And in fact, we are going to feature some tributes by a couple of her story novices, the people that she has influenced in their storytelling work. And then we will be very, very privileged to hear stories from Joy herself. So take it away.
Yes, just working on that now and share the screen.
Joy, is there something that you'd like to say about these young people before they begin?
You're muted, Joy.
I'll let you hear and then I'll tell you about them.
Okay.
I'll wait till after they've talked.
Hi everyone, my name is Anishka. Joy introduced me to the world of storytelling as a kindergartner. I became a storyteller at the age of 5 after listening to Joy at the monthly South Bay Storytellers and Listening meeting at the Los Altos Methodist Church. I remember she sat right in front of me and I would enter an imaginary world while listening to her tale. Eventually, I gathered enough courage to tell my very first story, the story of the 3 little pigs. Joy is a warm, kind-hearted, and wonderful storyteller and person overall. She enjoys encouraging others to become good storytellers. She would always sit in front of the room near a fireplace with a yellow pad of paper, and after writing my name on a name tag with a Sharpie and finding space to sit on the couch, she would turn to me and ask, "Anushka, do you have a story that you would like to share with us today?" I will never forget how Joy made storytelling something so personal. It was like she was telling the story only to you and everyone else in the room disappeared. It was a very magical experience for me. Over the years, I've soaked in her advice on how to improve my stories, such as exploring the perspective of my characters and how to become a better storyteller through voice modulation. I feel that sharing stories has helped me experience some sort of freedom. Through storytelling at many public libraries, state parks, and in the church, storytelling became something that became a special tradition for my family and I. So soon after, my younger sister Trisha followed. I'm 18 now and a freshman at UCLA studying math and computer science, but storytelling hasn't left me. I love to tell stories to my friends and family about my day, and I continue now as the actor, director, and narrator of my own tales. In group settings, my friends always say, "Anushka was there. She's good at telling how it all went down. She'll tell you." It's something that I take pride in. I love how storytelling excites others and how you can take them into another world through your voice and actions. Joy is an inspiration and has made a wonderful impact on my life. I love you, Joy. Thank you.
That's wonderful.
Hello, everyone. My name is Trisha Shetty. I'm 14 years old, and I am part of the South Bay Storytelling Group. So I first officially started telling stories when I was about 7 years old. But before that, like ever since I was a baby, I used to go to their meetings and kind of just like listen to their stories because my sister was part of that group. And I just fell in love with the art of storytelling. And I just love how in storytelling, you can express yourself and put all these like facial expressions and all these actions into your story, and also just like interact with the audience and like teach them lessons, because every story comes with its own moral. And I guess a memory I have of Joy Swift mentoring me is just her, like, I was always inspired by her and the way she would tell stories, and I was always hooked into every story she told. And she would always be like her stories were always very detailed, and she just made them flow very nicely. And she's also very supportive of me. And every time, like after I told a story, if it was like at a festival or at our meetings, she would always have something nice to say. And she was always just like there for me. And I really appreciated that. So for today's story, I'm going to be telling the Greek myth of Arachne. A long time ago, there lived a woman named Arachne. She was the daughter of a tradesman who often spent his days dyeing cloths into the darkest shades of purple. Arachne had a talent. She was an amazing weaver, and she could weave these tapestries that were so intricate. She was relatively well known amongst the villagers, and she would often receive lots and lots of praise and compliments about her talents. And this led her to an increase in her ego and an increase in her pride. She was often seen bragging to the villagers about her talents and just saying how she was the best weaver amongst all mortals and gods. And she would even sometimes say that her gift was not a God-given gift, and she got this herself. Unfortunately, the goddess Athena of wisdom and craft heard these words coming from her, and she was furious and outraged, and she disguised herself into this old lady. And she went through the crowd of villagers gathered around Arachne and her loom. And she went up to Arachne and she started scolding her. Why are you saying these things about yourself and saying these things about the gods and how you're better than them? And Arachne just laughed it off. Oh, who are you to tell me these things? Arachne didn't listen, and Athena then turned back into her true form, and Arachne was taken aback, but she had to hide it. Athena said to Arachne, since you're saying these things, I challenge you to a competition. Arachne said, okay, and Athena magically created a loom for herself, and she said, whoever makes the best tapestry wins. And Athena, she pulled wisps of clouds down from the sky and slender pieces of grass from the earth. And she started weaving, and they both were weaving so fast, and they weaved these intricate designs. And after they were done weaving, Athena's tapestry, it showed the gods and all the good things about them and all their achievements. It showed Poseidon riding the waves and Zeus with his lightning bolt and Apollo flying across the sky. On the other hand, Arachne's tapestry showed all the unflattering things about the gods and how they were arguing, and there was a scene of them drinking and fighting and playing with mortals' lives. And although Arachne's tapestry showed all the bad things about the gods, it was very beautiful, and no one could deny it. And Athena was angry because she knew that she had just lost, and in her anger, she screamed and she pointed to Arachne and turned her into a spider. And Arachne, she started shape-shifting, and she grew 8 eyes and 4 legs on each side. And she grew black fur, and she grew a string attached to her body, which reminded her of her human talent of weaving. And to this day, Arachne and her children roam the earth, creating intricate designs with their string, with their yarn, knowing not to mess with another god again. Thank you.
Both of those young ladies, actually, Anuska came first, and her mother would bring her, and her Trisha was still in the womb, and they would tell. So we let them tell her story early because we meet from 7 to 9. and we knew she had to be home and in bed. And she was always so gracious to share her story and listen. And you could see went on. And then Trisha came along and started telling. She must have been, she says 7, I think she was 5. And she had a story to tell right away and was soon writing her own stories and telling them, and has since been into some school productions where she sang. And both Amuska went on even to have a library festival at our local Los Altos library. And she put it together with the librarian's approval and had a one-day storytelling festival. So they've been wonderful people to work with. When you're working with young children, the thing to remember is when you get permission for them to do anything, you work through their parents. Whatever you do, constantly work through the parent so that you know that they know everything's up and up and there's no question of what's going on. And these parents were terrifically good with those girls. Thank you.
Thank you, Joy. So do you have a story to share with us today?
Well, I suppose several actually. You almost have to, as I got ready for this, and I'm used to telling 5-minute stories or less, because that's what we did at story swaps at the festivals. And then as we worked with the South Bay, you wanted to be sure everybody had time. And so I would often be the very last person to be sure everyone who wanted to tell had a chance to tell.
Mm.
You know, their guests, it's like they were guests in my home. In 1987, I was working as a personnel administrative specialist. And so I got laid off from this job, and well, what are you going to do with the rest of your life? You know, so I thought I would become a writer of children's books, and spent a whole day working with one of my husband's relatives who taught writing at San Mateo Community College and taught many children's books authors. And she gave me tons and tons of information. But you know, I was one of those kids when I was in school and make these charts for where you were on your spelling test. And I remember one who had a boat and they sailors. And my sailor was always on the bottom of that ocean, never could stay in the boat. And so when I tried to write, it was just so painful, and spell check was just, you know, kind of getting started. And I soon discovered oral storytelling through the old Peninsula Story Guild that had started up with some ladies here in Palo Alto in 1948.
Wow.
They had taken storytelling classes from someone, and then they volunteered their services, and they told only from literature. So that was different. And then somewhere along the line, I discovered Storyline when Kate Frankel was still doing it, before Bay Area Festival was, well, Bay Area Festival was going on, but it was not done by SAC.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
And so I just really got hooked. But that year, 1987, turned out to have some magic to it. I went to summer camp with my camp that I'd supported and sent children to, driven people to. But that year, I got to go. And I decided that every night at campfire, I would tell the camp story. And I was developing it every day as I went, because one of the original founders of the camp was still there and alive and able to tell me some of the stories.
Oh,
And it was so fascinating because this people had the dream of having this summer Bible camp in the mountains up near Lake Almanor.
oh,
And a fish hatchery came up for auction along with some buildings houses that people lived in. And so they decided they would bid for that fish hatchery, and it would cost, they expected, that 3,000 would be 10% down or something like that. But when they got there, no one would bid against them. The bid was opened at $5. And the auctioneer tried everything to get somebody to bid. And they bought the fish hatchery for $5. And the man doing the bidding said, I don't show you that I'm not cheap. And not just pay the 10% down. I have the whole $5 right here. And they had to move that camp, that fish hatchery, 15 miles to where they had a lease. And they moved it, took it apart and moved it on hay wagons. And they hand cranked the cement mixers to pour the foundation.
wow.
And I could tell you camp stories forever and ever, but I won't. Just to say that camp was destroyed August 5th last year
Oh,
in the Dixie fire.
oh gosh.
They burned the tetherball did not burn to the ground, but almost everything else is ashes, except those World War II mess trays that we purchased somewhere as Navy surplus, I think.
Wow, wow.
But
Such-
the most interesting thing was when I met Paul Dexter. He had started a swap group in Los Altos in 1991 in March. And things turned out in June that I could go. And so I started going and we hit it off. And together we ran what became South Bay. He just called it a swap group, but when we did Telebration, we needed a name. And so we became South Bay with the vision that there would be many swap groups in the area and that we'd do a Telebration together. But that didn't happen, but South Bay still goes on. And Paul passed away in 2000 and I've kept it going. One time Steve Sandfield said, what's your position with South Bay? And I looked at him and I said, well, benevolent dictator. It's a pretty good job if you can get away with it.
Terrific, terrific.
So many things I learned along the way of storytelling. And one of them was at that camp. And you can imagine these children have not been used to listening to stories as Jean is finding new problems today. And I wasn't used to telling yet. I was just learning my way. But I soon figured out that if they talked, I stopped. And I simply would wait until they stopped talking. Or if they were kicking dust up, I would just stop and wait. And the other children would want to hear the story and they would say, shh, and get them to be quiet. And to the last time I told there, of course, was 2019, before the pandemic. And still the children knew how to listen to those stories. And that was one of the things I learned.
Super.
But another thing I learned was when I went to a Mariposa Storytelling Festival and I signed up to tell a story. And I told this story. We buried Kitty late last night. It seemed like the proper thing to do. She was quite dead, you know. Kitty had come to our house to live after our gentleman cat called Matt Cat had disappeared to die on his own.
Hmm.
And so my mother-in-law lived next door, and she's the one that keeps the cats because I'm slightly allergic to them. So my son said, well, we have a cat at work and they're going to get rid of it. You see, we got the cat one day when the secretary saw a mouse run across the room, and the boss sent her to the pound to get a cat. And when she got there, she saw one in this cage, and she looked at it and it looked familiar. And there was a sign on the cage and it said, "Not good with children." That's when she realized it had belonged to her old music teacher. So she took the cat to the office, and the cat, I think it may have gotten a few mice, but it did have to be fed. And my son would feed it on Friday, leaving extra food because it wouldn't be fed again until Monday. But the cat had no control. It would eat all the food and, of course, barf on everything. And if you left your drawer open and lunch in it, your lunch would disappear. And so it was time to get rid of the cat. So my mother-in-law went down and interviewed the cat and liked it. And so they brought it home to my mother-in-law's house, which was next door, and put out warm milk for it. Well, that cat thought it died and gone to heaven. And then a few days later, my son took it outside. It didn't even know how to climb a fence. And he put it up on the fence, and it climbed the fence and learned how to chase squirrels. And oh, it really was quite a cat. But about 4 o'clock every day, it would get into my house somehow, stand at my feet and meow for food. And it would scare me, and I would jump. And I hated that cat.
Oh, no.
Oh, I threatened to kill it more than once. But that cat became ill, and my daughter was home, and she was holding the cat and trying to comfort it. And then my son came home, and he was comforting the cat. And he took it to the vet, and they said, well, its kidneys are failing. There's not anything we can do. So he brought it home, and here he had this beard, and he was crying into his beard and holding the cat. My daughter said, I'll take care of it. You go into choir practice and come back. And so they took care of the cat. Well, it was time to go to bed when he got back, and I didn't want the cat to die on the floor and leave a mess. So we started finding some things to put under it. And the cat crawled over the little throw rug, and while we were looking around, died. So I went to my sewing room where the cat had also gotten into and gotten dirty hair all over a piece of fabric. So I took the piece of fabric and we wrapped the cat. And we buried that cat late that night. And my son and daughter, my daughter held the flashlight while my son dug. It was midnight. My husband was out of town. And they started talking about when their father had come down with heart disease and how they knew he was going to be all right. And they said good things about the cat. And then it dawned on me that someday the day would come when I would be the one they were burying. And they would even say good things about me, mother who threatened to kill their cat.
Oh, no. Oh, joy. Oh, my goodness. Oh, my goodness.
Now you can imagine telling that story in Mariposa Festival and looking down into the audience and seeing people crying, and you're trying to figure out how to get it all the way done. So I learned to be careful about cat stories because everybody seems to have a cat story.
Thank you. My goodness. My goodness. That's great. Well, did you want to share any of your 5 to 7 minute stories that you, your favorite one or ones?
Okay, well, let's see. When I was about 9 years old, we lived in a little rural community in Texas called Bug Scuffle. Now, the schoolhouse was known as the Bug Scuffle Schoolhouse. And if you look, there's a Bug Scuffle Road there still today. And the community was really, the school was really the Hancock School, but nobody ever called it that. And my parents had gone to school there, and I'd gone to school there. And halfway between the school and our house was our mailbox. And it was about a half a mile to the mailbox. Well, one Saturday, just as it was starting to get dark, my father challenged me to go that half mile and get the mail from the mailbox. Our little house was up on a hill with a fence down below and cattle in the area all around the house. Now, I didn't know at the time that cattle are nearsighted, but they have these huge eyes, and they would look at you, and as I would walk down the road, they would follow my movements, and I was terrified of them. But I couldn't let a dare go by. So Dad handed me the old kerosene lantern. Now that gives out about as much light as one of these little tea lights, that we carry around these days. And I took off down the hill, through the fence, and across the creek. Actually, there were 2 creeks with a bridge across, but the woods were getting thick there. And so I walked through the woods and up the hill and took the mail out of the mailbox. And then when I turned around, it was as if everything had suddenly gone dark. It was very dark. And there was those woods to go through. And my grandfather had always told me about panthers being in the area. And of course, I'd never seen one. No one else ever talked about it, but you know how grandfathers can terrify you. So I started the walk home with the lantern in one hand and the mail in the other. I got down to that first creek and I could hear little critters scuffling around in the night. And then I could hear, ooh, ooh, ooh. Oh, that was a good sound. I knew that was the owl, and nobody was afraid of the owl in the night. I crossed the second bridge, and there was a field on one side of the fence and our field on the other. But coming across that field was a neighbor's bull. And of course, I was terrified of cows. I know that bull, he wants a bullfight. Of course, no, he wants our cows. I was terrified. I thought, I'll just melt right here in the like Jello, and family can find me in the morning and they'll be here and they'll know what happened. But then I looked up and I saw coming toward me the figure of a man. And I thought, oh no, now there's somebody out hunting. And if there's anything worse than cows, it's a bunch of hunting dogs after a raccoon. But as that man kept approaching, there was something familiar about that walk. Something very familiar. And so finally I called out, I said, Daddy, Daddy, is that you?
Mm.
And my father's gentle laughter came across those feet from me. And from there on, my father and I conquered my fears of the night.
Oh.
But all these years later, still, when I think about that and the fears of the night come, it's as if I can call Daddy, is that you?
Oh.
And still hears me.
Oh, oh, that's lovely. Thank you so much. Wow, wow. What a special memory.
It is special.
Yeah, yeah. Any another you'd like to share?
Oh, let's see.
Or-
When my mother-in-law died, I was executor of her estate, and of course left with uh, tons of paperwork and furniture and all the things you have to do. And in her papers, I found a couple of writings that have no idea who wrote them, where they came from. They had no notation on them, but I took them and developed this story of the two pieces together. So picture an older woman like I am now, and standing in her kitchen, washing dishes, looking out the window and fretting. My children are coming today. They worry. Oh, they mean well. They want me to have a phone in the kitchen. They want me to have railings in the kitchen. They want me to have someone to come in and help me take a bath. They don't really like me living alone. Help me be grateful for their concern and help them to understand that I have to do things as long as I can. They're right that they're risk. Yes, I might fall. I might leave the oven on, but there's no challenge, no possibility of triumphs without risk. You know, when they were little, they climbed trees and they went away to summer camp and rode bicycles, and I was terrified. But to hold them back would have been crippling to them.
Mm.
I had to let them go. Now our roles are reversed. Help them see. Help them see I need to keep doing for myself
Mm.
as long as I can. Help me to be grateful and help them not to smother me. And as I read on, she was stubborn, all right, but we let her have her way. And she finally did choose a home to go to. It belonged to friends of hers, and they even asked her what they should name it. And she looked at him and said, "Your name is Morgan. Just name it the House of Morgan." And they did. But when she was there, she wrote in her diary, "Oh, the recreational therapist is here again. She wants to know if I want to do something. Do I want to?" She's got paper and scissors. "Do I want to do decoupage?" "No, I'm too busy. I want to remember a day when Sam and I went berry picking. I was only 18 and I had this long hair that I had braided and put around my head and so it wouldn't get caught in the briars. And when we sat down to rest, I took my hair down and let it fall. It wasn't fair to do that to make him fall in love with me, but we had a good marriage." Here comes the recreational therapist again. She has all these things she wants me to do. And I said, "No, no." I shut my eyes and she said, "Wake up. You don't want to sleep your life away."
Mm.
"I'm not sleeping. I need time. I need," she doesn't understand. But what I need time to do is to think and to remember all those things, to arrange them on the shelves of my mind.
Oh,
She comes again with bright, shiny beads and says, "Don't you want to make jewelry?" I look at the beads and I know she means well, but I tell her, "Some other day,
mm, mm, mm.
some other day."
Oh, Joy. Oh, my goodness. That was just beautiful.
Thank
Memories
you.
on the shelves of my mind. That was just
I love
lovely.
that phrase, and where that came from, I have no idea. But it does speak so well, for what we're into now.
Mhm, 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 mhm.
Oh, what's our time?
Do you want to do one more, or are you?
I could do, let's see. Oh, yeah, I can do one more. I do
Okay.
have permission for this. Uh, White Wave by Diane Wolfstein. If you should be in China on a hillside and you find some stones there, some pretty shiny stones, they might be what's left of what was once a dwelling that was made for um, oh, I'm sorry, went out of my mind. I've got to think a second. A moon goddess.
Mm,
You see, long ago in the time of magical times, there was a young man whose parents had died and he was living alone. And he traveled to his fields every day and he took care of his fields, but he was not in a hurry to get home because he was alone and lonely, too broke to ask to date anyone and much too shy to even talk to a girl.
mm,
So as he was coming home, he went through the woods and there he saw this, what looked like a very shiny rock in the moonlight. And he reached down and he picked it up. And when he looked, he realized it wasn't a shell at all, a rock at all. It was a shell. It was a moon shell. And the snail inside was still alive. And so he brought it home and he put it in an earthenware jar and he put leaves in it. And in the morning, the leaves were gone. And so he put more leaves in and he went off to work. But that night, when he came home, his meal was cooked. There was rice and a vegetable, and there was even a flower on the table. And he was so pleased. He looked everywhere to see who had done this, and he couldn't find anyone. And the next night he came home, and the same thing. There was a vase with a peach blossom and his meal. And he went to the village and he went everywhere around, asked, was there somebody new? And no one knew of anybody new. And this went on for quite a while. And finally, one morning, he got up a little earlier than usual and went off to the fields and he came back and peered in the window. And he waited and waited. And just as the sun rose and was shining into that window, he saw coming out of that earthenware vase a small, tiny hand. And then another tiny hand came up, and out came this most beautiful girl dressed in silk. And she was just iridescent and made the whole room shine. And then he knew she was the one doing his meals. But he knew without being told that he must never, ever touch her. But he would get up morning after morning and watch her. And one morning he was so overwhelmed with his desire to touch her, he opened the door. And as he did, she yelled back at him, no, no, you can't touch me. Now I will have to leave you. But if you will stand there and count to 5 as I leave, I will give you a gift, leave you a gift. And very sorrowfully, he started counting 1, and she passed in front of him toward the door. If you will keep counting, I will leave you a gift. And he counted 2 and 3 and 4. And when he counted 4, there was a great roar of thunder and lightning as he said 5. The thunder came down, the rain came so hard, and she disappeared, and he couldn't see her anywhere. And he knew she was gone. And he looked on the floor, and there was the shell, but no living thing in it. He became so despondent, he ignored his rice fields. He started building a shrine for her on the hillside, hoping that she would come and dwell there. And when the fall came, he had no food left. He was eating grass and berries. And he came into his house, and he remembered that she had said, if you ever need anything, all you have to do is call my name, White Wave, and I will help you. And as he fell desperately to the floor, he called, White Wave, I need you. And he picked up the shell, and out of the shell poured rice, enough rice to last the whole year and plant his fields. He never had to call on her again. He got his courage back. He planted the fields. He even married in time and had children. And he told his children the stories about White Wave. And they would go up hoping that she would come to the shrine he had made for her. But he never did. But they would hold that shell when he told the story. But as time went on, the old man died and the shrine fell apart. And all that is left is the story. And that is how it is for all of us.
Oh, wonderful.
Thank you.
So much, Joy. Thank you so very much. That was just lovely. Oh, my goodness. What an afternoon you've provided for us. It's just lovely to hear your stories, your memories, your things you have to share with us. It's just been so amazing. Now, is Kendra available? Is she there?
Yes, she's coming.
Okay.
That was delicious, Joy. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
There have been lots of comments in the chat, how beautiful and lovely your stories have been. So Kendra's going to help me here. We're going to do a little magic because we have a little something for you.
Okay.
So this is your certificate that says, the Storytelling Association of California presents the 2022 Regional Gem Award to Joy Swift for your many years of joyously bringing the world of storytelling to your community with your adult and student workshops, story swaps, telebrations, and carrying advice to new and experienced tellers and even festival producers. Presented with joy on March 12th, 2022. And so here you go.
Oh, magic. Could it be magic?
Thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank
Kendra,
you.
thank you for all your help. We have just, go
I
ahead.
must say that a lot of the success of South Bay has also been attributed to J.C. Cockrell, who has put us in Big Basin State Park for many years now, before the fire. Of course, it's closed now. But we've told in Big Basin, and the help of Lori Pines and also Tom and Sandy Farley, who've done the winter workshops. I guess I'm still benevolent dictator, but I sure have a lot of people help me, and they need credit for.
That's what it's all about. It's this storytelling community, and we can help each other and we can support each other. And we're just so thrilled to have you lead us. They've been a part of us and have helped us for so many years. And we just want to thank you and honor you as our regional gem.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Could I add something?
Absolutely. And anybody else can as well. Go ahead, Jean.
Absolutely loved your stories, Joy. As always, a joy to listen to you and to see you. I felt like you were in my living room talking to me personally. So thank you for that. And I would also like to thank Tom and Sandy Farley for providing the videos that really spoke your praises in such wonderful fashion. Thank you.
Great, great. Anybody else in the audience who'd like to say something to Joy?
Yeah, Joy, this is Ed. Thank you so much. Your stories, and one story in particular really touched me.
Good.
Thank you.
Super. Go ahead, Marilyn.
It's been a treat to run into you over the years, Joy, mostly at the Bay Area Festival and at other events like that. And you have always been a stalwart and just a shining light in organizing and in running and in just participating in a really warm and generous way. Earlier in the meeting, somebody said that they had never seen a swatch from like the Bay Area Festival or something like that. So, here are a couple.
Yeah.
But great memories that I have of being with you and others at festivals like that, Joy. It's a pleasure to honor you today.
I have swatches from every festival I've been to, including a button from Ojai.
Oh, lovely, lovely, lovely. Gregory, did you want to say something or you have to go?
Yes,
No, no.
please. Lovely to see you. Lovely to hear your voice. We haven't
in our
had
house again.
in our house again. We haven't had a story in front of our fireplace for quite a while now, and good to see you again.
Love you, Joy. You're our joy.
Thank you. Greg's my son. I haven't seen him for a while.
That's lovely. Yes, lovely.
Long time.
And it's not just the picture. New Hampshire is black and white.
Yeah, today it is.
Oh, gosh.
Lost power earlier.
Oh, my. Oh, my.
Yeah.
Came on just
And
before you came on, so there you go.
Thank you.
Thank you. Glad you could
Thank
come.
you.
Yeah. Ah, it's just, I'm so happy, just happy and just breathing. Thank you, Joy. Thank you so much.
You're very welcome. Thank you. Thank you for the honor. I
Well,
appreciate it.
Of course, of course. So I'm going to call our gathering to a close and remind folks that there are wonderful things coming up. The San Diego Storytelling Festival, 6 Feet Apart Productions, Bay Area Storytelling Festival, Genre for SAC next week, and all the other things you wonderful people are putting on. So thank you all. Have a lovely afternoon and evening, and we'll see you next time. Thank you.